This one is a recent addition to the collection, thanks to my buddy Will, who helped me get this from the. With Masterpiece Dinobot on the way, I felt it was time to get some of the lingering Dinobots in this collection reviewed, and that does include the most recent addition to my shelves. This is Henkei Dinobot, one of the last grails on my list of Transformers to get, courtesy of my buddy Will, who helped me get this one out of the UK, where eBay's a little bit more generous with the price than they are here in the US. So this, of course, is the classic Raptor mode, not the feathered Raptor that we are seeing these days. This is more leaning toward the Jurassic Park style reptilian type, and looking quite sleek, far sleeker than the original. Go check the review I did of that one. But yeah, if you saw the review I did of the Uterus Dinobot, this might be a little bit repetitive, but we'll try to point out as many of the differences in this toy as possible. For instance, show accurate. This one is cast in this nice chocolate brown color that actually matches the show. Amazing how that works. And of course, the striping on it, you get kind of this light brown all the way across, from tail all the way to the tip of the snout, and it is again the right type of striping going in the right direction. Now, it is a little bit off in that in the show it's a lot more of those lines and they're much thinner, but at a retail level, just a normal deluxe toy, I think this is as good as we could have gotten. It would have been an extremely extensive and intricate paint job to mass produce at a low cost just to get like the complete show accurate. The one thing the show accurate paint does, I will admit, is just show off how, kind of un-Dinobot the head sculpt is. It's a little bit softer and a little bit more round. It doesn't capture the ferocity he had in the actual TV show. So it's a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, you're still coming up with something that's a little bit closer to, the pop culture version of the Velociraptor, which I guess was the original intent, so why not again? One strange thing is about his eyes, the pupils are a little bit upcast, so he always has this kind of expression like he's looking a little bit upward. This is a little bit strange, but it is what it is. Down here, we have the claws painted up in the brown. You can also start seeing some of the bronze peeking through, and a little bit of the blue with the exposed robot parts. Speaking of, obvious feet are obvious. But it's nice that the big talons are there. They're fully painted, of course. And I will admit, that is the big difficulty they've always had with Dinobot, is trying to get all those robot mode pieces into such a lanky and svelte beast mode. You can see robot mode thighs are exposed there if you look at the toy from the front, and of course on the underside. He does have his robot mode arms just kind of hanging there. Now granted, much better than big beast mode legs made of rib cages hanging down, so give him credit, this is an improvement. And it's still trying to match the natural lines and shape of the Raptor. Unfortunately, there's just some things you can't do anything with. His robot mode claws, for instance, very, very apparent on the toy, which is rather unfortunate. Beyond that, let's see what can we do here. No real articulation throughout the rest of the body, except when we get to the jaw, where his mouth does open, all teeth fully painted, which is always a nice thing to see. Arms do have up and down motion here, so do the legs, but they are a little bit limited. You're more likely to just splay them outward like so. And the knee, again, because of the thighs, is a little bit restricted here, but it is available to you should you want it. And then you have a tilt and a rotation in the ankle, so he can get into a few bit more natural poses. Nothing really striking, but definitely something to consider if you're having trouble balancing your beast. I will say there is something weird and something off about the toy that's a little bit disconcerting. You see that the tail's a little bit of an off color compared to the rest of it? Well, that's because this is all rubberized. This is a much softer shade of plastic. Also, you'll see it here in the arms and in the robot mode claws. Now, I don't know if it was something the previous owner did, if it was an environmental thing, but you can see there, I get a little bit of a film across it. My fear is that it is the plastic being improperly mixed and starting to chemically separate on me, which does mean the toy would have a limited lifespan. I'm hoping it's just a temporary thing, but I fear the contrary. Alright, so let's get this guy into robot mode, and we will see how well that part of him came out. And we start by removing about a good third of the toy's bulk by taking the tail off and completely setting it aside, leaving us with the buttless raptor. He's got incredible hips in this mode. There's a Pokemon that looks like that now. It's creepy. So we're going to go ahead and start with the legs. We'll go ahead and take those obvious robot mode feet, swing them down, and then swing them forward like you do. Thighs now go downward, and here's where you're going to start needing a little bit of careful motion. Again, soft plastic, again, a little bit discolored on mine from film or plastic plasticizer separation, whatever, what do you have? This is always the hard part. The bones that wrap around his legs interlock inside these calf pieces and tend to get stuck. Give me your tail. We'll actually use this. It's not only a weapon accessory, it's a tool. So with that out of the way, open up the bones, line them up on the back. You'll find should find a space where where that hinge clips in like so. That tightens and completes the shape of the leg. We'll do the same thing on this side. It also shows how to get the legs straightened and in the proper position. Beast mode arms will go down for now, and then arms out. We're going to need these panels off to the side so we can open that up completely. With that out of the way, these can go back. You're supposed to lock this section in place, but they don't hold too well on mine. Again, don't know if that's something of this release or if it's just bad luck on my end, one or the other. I don't know. This is a pre-owned version of the toy, so not quite sure. That the beast mode head flips down. It's a little bit restricted. You're also going to move these sections together in order to form up the hip section of the toy. There's this weird spring panel in it. Every time I transform this guy, I feel like I need to have it folded up to get him all the way down, but I can't ever quite manage it, which is frustrating. Yeah, but with that all out of the way, go ahead and move those to the back to clean it up as much as possible, and then you're pretty much done with your Dinobot. Looking quite good. Definitely a step up from the original attempt in Universe. Now, he comes together as well as I could expect. At least looking at a common deluxe size. He does have some oddities to him, but we will get to them as we take a full view of the toy. Starting with the head, of course, because we always start with a head here on random. That's so much better. If you weren't here for the Universe Dinobot review, imagine this guy with a purple face and a gold helmet instead of bronze. Yeah, it didn't work. It looked quite awful. Here, correctly painted, looking very, very nice. Great light piping in the eyes as well. A little bit of a frowny expression. You'd expect Dinobot to look angrier or more annoyed, usually because Rat Trap is within hearing distance. But for now, he's what he is. Proportionally, works pretty well. Dinobot was always the big-armed type, though this one is a little bit narrower in the shoulders, and the shoulders in general are obviously the least accurate part of him. Strangely enough, there seems to be a little bit of sculpting in him to where they could have faked some of his shoulder armor, but neither the US or Japanese version bothered to attempt to paint it. It could be some unpaintable plastic and the molding is just left to your imagination, but it is a sour point in that it's a detail that felt like it could have increased its accuracy that is lost to us, unfortunately. But you can see here the bronze is now overtaking a lot of the brown. It is very much a prominent color on him, and little hits of blue here and there. Not quite as prominent a color as it is on his main body, but enough to separate it out and connect him better to the show. There are also little oddities, like he does have those floating elbows that are so annoying. This is one of my biggest pet peeves in Transformers these days, is those forward floating elbows. If you bend the arm at all, it just looks like his arm's barely holding together. Also, and strangely enough, his legs have a slight digitigrade shape to them as a result of the transformation. Now, they try to bulk it out and straighten it up. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work here. I almost wish these bones filled out the front of the shin just a little bit more. That is always my favorite part of the toy, though, is that they actually did figure out a way of working in that bone detailing on his leg. It's completely superfluous. It's completely an optional thing to do, but it's such a nice little touch for them to have worked in, because it is one of his signature appearances. You can see that again in the midsection where you see more of those bones showing through. A little bit of silver along the thighs as well, just for some added color. Working exceptionally well, I think. So, beyond that, let's see, what else do we have to show off before we get to articulation? Well, there is the gimmick, at least the main gimmick. That little notch in his head can be rotated around in various directions in order to facilitate faction switching, where we have the maximal symbol, of course we do, the original Predacon symbol, and then of course the third section of the triangle, which is just the scaly head, which I kind of prefer because Dinobot never really showed any faction symbols prominently in the show, which kind of makes this more accurate, so we will leave it that way. So, what else? Well, we do have the tail. Tail was a big piece. Of course, in the show, in the original toy, the tail folded apart to create a spinning shield. This one does not spin, and nor does it open in two sections. It opens in three, and then we fold the rest down. So it comes across as this massive bow rather than a spinning shield, which is a little bit strange, I will admit. But hey, it's what you have to do, I guess. Now, to actually hold it, he's going to have to flip his hand around. So on a little spring, we're going to pull this open, flip around, and that gives him his actual robot mode fist, which he didn't actually have in the show. But hey, it's a cool thing for them to include so he can do 5mm weapons and all that fun stuff. And that is how you will have to mount his crossbow, I guess, his gigantic bow, into his hand for some actual accessory action. And speaking of which, there is this. Where is the firing launcher? There it is. Henkei was all about random chrome, so the sword, the missile being chrome, is only weird in that a chrome missile these days is going to get scratched and chipped quite easily. Probably not the smartest thing to do, but also smart that it is his sword from the show, so at least they got that part right. And being Henkei, we're lucky that's the only thing they chromed on this guy. So there is a little notch inside his hand to where you can actually peg in those little pegs on the side of the missile that are actually just used to hold the peg in place on the launcher. It's a clever bit of reusage. Unfortunately, that soft plastic does not give him enough grip to hold onto that peg, ironically enough. So you're better to just, friction it in there, which actually makes for a pretty dinky sword on Dinobot, all things considered. But hey, at least it's there, You have the option anyway. So, articulation-wise, the head, not a great grip. Again, might want to use that fist hand. Head does rotate around, so you do have articulation in the neck, full ball joints in the shoulders, as well as a full biceps swivel. Nothing at the wrist because of all that flipping around gimmick, but his hands in the beast options do open and close, and you do have a full 180-degree elbow bend, which does cause the floating elbow thing, but hey, whatever. Nothing in the waist. Full thighs, though. Always appreciate that. It looks like there should be a thigh swivel. Unfortunately, there is not where I like it. Anyway, yeah, he really needed that one, didn't he? And then the knee that unfortunately does not bend too much because he has so much going on in the leg transformation. You do still get the ankle rotating and rocking, though, so there is that. And even the foot as well. So decent articulation all the way around. He does do enough. Unfortunately, the legs do kind of have a letdown there. He could have used a little bit more. But that, my friends, is Henkei Dinobot. This guy commands enormous price on the aftermarket, and with the Masterpiece release coming out, it's getting harder and harder to recommend paying that price, because I wouldn't recommend it in the first place, and now a far cheaper and likely far better option is coming down the line for everyone who wants the iconic Dinobot as one of their prized toys in their collections. Hopefully the Masterpiece toy is an improvement anyway, like we expect it to, right? But this was cool. This is one of the last few grails I had on my collection, and really good. This is like the last chance I have to be excited over it before the Masterpiece overtakes it. So it's going into the shelf with pride. It's been a long wait, but I think worth it. I still like him a lot.